John, take it away when you're ready.
Thanks, Ben. Thank you all for joining us. Obviously, we're here to discuss the recent transaction as we traded Mark-Anthony Kaye to the Colorado Rapids. For us, it's a tough day. I love my job, but this is certainly the hardest part of it and not one that I enjoy all that much. Mark has been an incredible story for LAFC, and it's testament to him, our staff, and everything, just how it all came together. He's come so far in such a short period of time, and it's tough, but it's the reality we have to accept when we live in these in a cap-constrained world, that sometimes you have to make these difficult decisions. What I will say is that the personal side of it, everybody says, oh, it's football, it's business, but it's not for us. It is personal. Mark's a guy that we've all come to really appreciate and like. He's been such a big part of our history so far, and for that reason, we certainly wanted to work with Mark, take him, his wife Rachel's into account as we make these decisions, and as best we can work with them to find the right solution. We always have to take what's right for the club into account, but certainly did with them as well. And also wanted to thank Poreg and Colorado, Rich Motzkin, Mark's agents, and how they've been, and Mark himself, how they've been throughout the process. And so it was a really, really tough decision, but one we felt was necessary, and hopefully will work out well for Mark, for Colorado, and LAFC. And with that, I'm guessing I'm going to open up to questions.
Yes, indeed. We're going to start here with Dave Dent. Dave, go ahead.
Hey, John. Two questions. First, what do you remember about how you were drawn to Mark back when you actually were scouting him or building the team, and what you remember about that whole process? And then secondly, how much of a move like this, also you have to look at his teammates and how much Sifu has stepped up and things like that, and the roster itself now?
Yeah, so I'll start with the first one. Mark came to us as we were building out our initial group, and it started actually with Zach Abdel, our goalie coach who had worked with Canada, who piqued Bob's interest. We had watched the Gold Cup, I think the previous summer, which would have been 17, I'm guessing, and had seen some things, and then we watched further at the USL level. He was with Louisville City. Oddly, Mark played more on the left as a wide player in their system, and we had the transfer agreement done with Louisville City, and Mark came and joined us back in the UCLA days, very early preseason. One of my favorite things about the story with Mark is there was a point in time in preseason where he, and this is typical Mark, he sort of came to the coaches and very introspective and self-aware said, I'm not sure if I'm ever going to get this because of the demands and the differences in how we played and what he was used to and what have you. But then there was a moment in that preseason where things just clicked, and Mark started our first ever game in Seattle, which we won, and was a big part of the group from then on. And his growth from then on and off the field has been a huge part of the success we have had to date. He's been a part of some of our greatest memories as a club, some of our biggest performances, which is why this makes it difficult, because he has been such a part, and we'll never lose those memories. Our supporters, our owners, the players here, he's been such a big part of it, and we thank him certainly for all he has done to help build what we have here at LAFC. Going into your second question, assuming that first question suffices your first one, you always have to take all these things into account. You have taken the player's situation, you have taken their contractual situation, you have taken their the team's state of play, and all of these things, time of year. There's so many things that go into account, and one of them you mentioned, Sifu. Well, it's not a like for like, but certainly you have to weigh the variable I refer to there is the competitive impact this will have in our group. And losing a guy like Mark, who has been a starter and such a big part of things, will require other guys to step up, and our comfort level with the move requires that. We understand now that others are going to have to step up and fill a big hole now, and while that is a big ask, we are confident that the guys that we have, as well as some new additions, will step up and hopefully finish the season in a really strong way.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Katya, go ahead.
Thanks, Ben. Hi, John.
Hi, Katya.
I just wanted to ask you about the conversations, if you had any with Mark, and I know he's with the national team right now, but how did that go about?
Yeah, so we've been talking to Mark on and off for the past few months about his situation and what the plans were, and as I said in my introduction, Mark deserved the fact that we said, look, we're going to work with you to find the right solution, whether the long-term fit is here at LAFC or elsewhere. And so we've had numerous conversations starting in earnest this preseason. So we've gone step by step. Yesterday, the call was certainly not I don't say the final call, as though we're not going to continue our relationship, but I then informed Mark of the news. It's always difficult because you have these negotiations that have to stay confidential, but once it was heading towards a conclusion with Colorado, I called Mark myself, explained the situation as much as I could. Bob also spoke with Mark yesterday, and I know Colorado then reached out to Mark as well, as is the case in this modern era. We try to keep a tight lid on it, which we did a good job of until this morning, but credit everybody with Colorado, with Mark and his team, in keeping things confidential. But the conversation yesterday with Mark was very straightforward. I think he understood. I am a big believer in just being upfront, honest, and transparent with the players, which that was no different and has been no different for the past few months with Mark. So we had that conversation yesterday afternoon.
Just one more from me. You mentioned, of course, the salary cap and the budget that you guys have to work with. What can you tell us if it has anything to do with freeing up space and LAFC nearing a deal with Christian Arango?
Yeah, I can't, for the reasons I just mentioned about confidentiality. I'm not going to talk specifics about players, inbound, outbound, and as frustrating as that is for all of you, that that's my policy. But what I can say is, yes, this is it's a significant transaction, as it should be for a player of Mark's quality and experience. So it is a significant transaction. It does offer a lot of flexibility for us moving forward in how we want to go about improving the team, whether that's without going into specifics of players, but it will enable us to now spend this money and these resources in a way that we think can help fill the gap now vacated by Mark, as well as improve in other areas.
Thank you.
Thanks, Katya. We're going to now go to John Rojas.
Thanks, man. Thanks, John, for the time. I'm going to take advantage that you're here with a few things. Trading with teams that are contenders is usually not, in other leagues, in other worlds, is not that often that you see that. How was that process to trading with Colorado, being you so close to the table and fighting for the spots? It's
something you think about. I don't weigh it too heavily. I think if you were to say to me, John, we've got a trade in the Eastern Conference and it's the same as a team in the Western Conference, I would rather Mark is not in the Western Conference, but I think we do at times have to just make economically rational decisions. I do, again, I said it at the outset, the way Colorado went about things definitely helped in the process, their professionalism and how they approached it, how much I know they value Mark as well and think he would be a good landing spot for him. That certainly came into it. So I would say it's something you think about, but it is not a decision driver for us unless it is literally like for like, and I could have him in the Eastern Conference rather than the West. But we felt this was the right resolution for Mark, for us, and for Colorado.
And in another way, you mentioned already that you don't want to talk that much on specifics and names, but Christian already said bye to his teammates. He traveled with Millonarios to Miami, and he's supposed to be on his way to LA. So, what can you give us on that?
That sounds really exciting.
Thank you. And one last one from me, and it still says specific names, but it's there. I mean, Rodriguez was very clear in Uruguay that he wouldn't come back to LA. He's there, and he's starting to train, and he's playing now, having minutes. And the rumors are still out there that he is going back to Peñarol. So what can you tell us about his situation with him?
I could tell you that what I know right now, I'm looking at a field. Brian is there. Brian has come back very engaged, motivated. He's come in to our games already. I think he'll play an increasing part in what we have going forward. While the window is still open, and this applies to Brian as well as anybody, anything can happen. What I can tell you right now is that it is highly unlikely and borderline impossible that we will ever send him back to Peñarol, given the situation. So I also think that some of the quotes that you're referring to were taken out of context. I don't think Brian ever directly said, I am not going back to LA. I think the quote, if I saw it and I don't get caught up in this stuff, was something along the lines of, I want to be somewhere where I'm valued, etc. And I think people then tried to imply upon that quote that he meant he didn't want to come here. We have not had a hint of that since he's been here. He's been very professional. He's building up his training time, and we think as long as he's here, he's going to be an important player for us.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, Josh Gross.
Hey, John.
Hey, Josh.
We had talked, I guess, maybe not 2 weeks ago, 10 days ago or so, about the transfer window, and you had mentioned sort of dominoes needing to fall for other pieces to go down. Was this trade of Mark to Colorado one of those dominoes that was in your mind? Or, I mean, I know you know, how quickly did this come together? I guess I'm not quite certain on that. So, you know, was this move one of those dominoes you were referencing?
Yeah, I think there were so many moving pieces. If I referred to them as dominoes, I'm saying moving pieces now. So a lot of things go into it, whether that is potential acquisitions of other players, and as those come closer to fruition, it then gives you greater comfort with moving pieces, etc. To peel back the curtain a little bit, we have Mark is one of a few of our talented players, and so things, while they can, as you get to the final stage, they escalate fairly quickly. We get asked about our players fairly regularly. Sometimes those are actionable, sometimes not. I can assure you there was a lot of interest from all over the league with Mark. This one ended up being the right choice yesterday. But it is something that we're always considering is all of the contingency planning that goes into if we trade this player, if we sell this player, what is coming in, what resources will we have available, and most importantly, because all of these decisions at LAFC are made to win. How will, not just will we get these resources, but how will we spend them in order to improve our team?
And a little bit, it's on topic, but a little bit of sort of different tangent. I think Mark was your only player in the Gold Cup. You don't have a lot of representation in that tournament. What responsibility does LAFC have to, I guess, North American or CONCACAF talent? And you know, how do you see your role in terms of building that talent or featuring that kind of talent from the federation, from the region?
Yeah, I mean, I do take it. I don't. Responsibility is the right word. All I will say is that we are passionate about developing football here for the States. You know, we've had players play in World Cups. I think the World Cup in 2018, we had the most MLS players in any World Cup, and that was Carlos was here when you refer specifically to our region. But no, we are keenly interested in developing football in the States, in Mexico, in our region. Mark is one example of a player that was in the Gold Cup. We've had players, you know, Marco, Tristan, in and around their national team, whether it was Olympic team, full team, etc. I also think a big part of that will be the graduation, the maturation of our academy players, and we have a lot of players involved in youth national teams, both for Mexico and the U.S., that are in our academy, and as they mature and develop into full national team players, I think we will hopefully see that more and more. So it's not something that we don't think about. We certainly do, and we want to be regular contributors to our national teams in the region.
All right, thank you.
Thanks. We've got two more here for John. Tom, go ahead.
Thank you. Hey, John. Thanks for the time. You know, I know you've already touched on that Mark had a ton of interest within the league. I don't know how much you'll be able to how much you'll be able to talk to about, had there been any, I guess, really serious negotiations with teams abroad?
Depending on how you say really serious, I would say not really serious, no.
Thank you.
And then lastly here for John, Gio, take it away.
Hey, John, thank you for the time. I was just curious to know a little bit more. I know you touched on Brian, but what kind of conversations did you have with him about potentially, him helping you guys win a championship this year?
No different from the conversations we have with every player here to help us win a championship. I think for us, we entertained the loan and he went on loan to Almeria in the hopes of helping them get promotion. That didn't work out for Almeria or for him personally to move to Europe. But we always said from the beginning we knew that there was some likelihood that Brian would be returning and we'd be excited to have him back. We got a lot of questions in January, February when we made the move. What are you going to do with your DP spot? And we said there's a chance Brian's coming back, and in that event we'll welcome him back, and he'll be an important piece for us. So that's still the same. Brian will be called upon. Just he hasn't had the amount of training yet. He returned from Copa America. He's probably had 7 days of training, so he's building his fitness up. You've seen already in games he's come into and helped, and I think that'll continue moving forward.
Thank you. That's going to be it for John.
If I can just add,
today. John, really appreciate your time. Ooh.
Is there one more?
Yeah, I was just
Did you want one more?
I was just gonna add, how's the mood in the locker room with the players now that obviously Mark got traded, and how do the players feel?
Yeah, I think these are the types of things that we as a club are very open with our players and transparent, and we tell them what's going on. So they got the message. I am sure players being players that Mark probably called them yesterday. I don't know. But look, I think the players understand that this is, and again, I going back to my opening, I hate when people say, people understand this is part of the business. We're people, we're human beings. So it is tough that their friend is moving on, but I think they understand how we as a club how we engage in moves like this, that we always do take it very seriously, the player's personal situation, and try to find the right resolution. So they understand that these decisions do get made, that it is a part of their existence, just as I have to accept it's a part of mine making these hard decisions. And so we had that conversation this morning, and now we focus on tomorrow, and I have no doubt that Bob and the staff will reiterate the right messages, and we'll be ready to go tomorrow.